This year we are not wasting food. So welcome back to Project Pantry. We're going to be going through the cupboards in the fridge and making sure that everything we've made, have bought, is not going to waste. Grocery prices are expensive, so we need to try and make sure that even those weird ingredients that have been sitting in the back of the cupboard for months at this point are getting eaten. Hey, my name is Immy if you're new here, and I talk about all things to do with food, sustainability, saving money, and just living a little slower. So grab a cup of tea and let's get into it. I've started meal prepping beans and rice that I put in the freezer, and they've made a really big difference for how convenient some meals have been. So whenever I'm thinking about Project Pantry, I immediately think about the stuff I've already prepared and kind of the things that are in the fridge that need to be eaten within the first few days, but then how to pair a couple of things together, like what I already have in the freezer, what I could make from the cupboard, and then some fresh and also some fermented things that I tend to have in the fridge as well. I like to use different ways of preserving, like fermentation, but also freezing, just to make sure food lasts a little bit longer and I have lots of options, but that food does not go to waste. I'm not sure what is up with me today, but I am exhausted mentally and physically. So I've been doing a lot of admin today instead of filming. I did one knitting video, but that's about it. But anyway, I am really feeling like something like a treat, and I love bubble tea. So the other day I actually ended up buying some taro flavored tapioca pearls, which are the boba that you get in bubble tea. And I have some really like creamy, delicious Earl Grey loose leaf tea. So I'm gonna try and make my own. I almost wish that I bought kind of like the plain boba, but I like the taro flavor. So I'm gonna give this a go. I've never made bubble tea before, so I'm not sure how this is gonna go, but this has very simple ingredients. It's literally tapioca starch, water, salt, taro flavor, but that's pretty much it. Some of the recipes online that I found used a powdered creamer, but obviously I don't have that. So I'm gonna brew the tea in the milk. So I'm gonna heat the milk up. I'm using oat milk, and then I'm going to brew the Earl Grey in that. And then in the meantime, I will boil these and make a brown sugar syrup, because I have a lot of brown sugar. I tend to use plant milks or buy plant milks when I'm baking, so I only use the oat milk in a couple of recipes, and I do use it when I drink my Earl Grey tea, but I wanted to find a way to make sure that I was going to use it all up, and I thought this bubble tea was just a really good way to do that, as well as finally using those tapioca pearls that I've had in the cupboard for a couple of weeks. Sometimes I get overexcited when I go to shops and I buy a couple of things that I think, oh, I can't wait to make these, and then it takes me a while to actually get round to making them, but I'm really glad that I finally pushed myself to do it today. That can often be the power of Project Pantry. It just really gets you motivated. I don't have any ice cubes, and I don't have a fridge that creates ice like a lot of them do. So I'm using just some kind of like reusable ice block thing, and I've strapped it around my tea, and now I'm just gonna wait for it to cool down a little bit. Though, to be honest, I'm probably not gonna wait very long because it tastes so good. This is definitely your sign to go and try making it yourself, but also support your local bubble tea shop because it's really good. Those have been sitting in my cupboard for a couple of weeks, not that long, but I did buy them thinking, oh, I can't wait to make this, what a treat. But in my head, I knew that it would take me a while to use it, so I felt like this was the perfect opportunity to force myself to make that thing that I actually wanted. Sometimes I procrastinate making things and I have the ingredients for it because I just can't be bothered. So today is a very chill, admin heavy day, so it felt like the perfect time. Also, my husband has driven off to Boulder, I think it is. We have been looking for like a tiny island that we can have in the middle of the kitchen, but we didn't want to buy it new, obviously. So we've been scouring Facebook Marketplace for one, and we finally found the perfect one that's really small but would be perfect for filming and just a tiny bit of extra counter space. So he's gone off to get that, which I'm very excited about. So tomorrow you'll see me filming with that, which is very exciting. This is so good. The only thing that would make it better was if my straw was a little bit thicker. Oh, I love it. I'm on a mission this year to really try and experiment with a lot of different recipes, but I also want to be very mindful of my food waste whilst I'm doing this as well. So for this recipe, I really wanted to try something new, but I didn't want to buy any specialty ingredients or ingredients that wouldn't be wholly used in this recipe. So this is like a very creamy umami soup with noodles and crispy mushrooms, and I had most of the ingredients for this already. The only thing that I really had to buy were the mushrooms, and I made sure to buy the exact amount that I needed. And then I also needed to get some soy milk. Everything else I pretty much had in the cupboards, and I did have some frozen udon noodles in the freezer, which again I thought would be perfect to get out the freezer to use for this recipe, using as much of what I already had as possible. You'll probably notice a theme if you watch a lot of my videos that I tend to make a lot of the same cuisines, and that is mostly because I have built up a good stash of specific spices or sauces or things like that that all go together and are mostly used in very similar recipes. So sometimes when I'm branching out and trying new recipes, it definitely involves buying a few more condiments and other things that I know will go together well and will be used quite a lot in these specific recipes. But I always come back to the cupboards and look there first before I decide on making a new recipe, see what I actually do already have in the ingredients list, and then make a little note of how much I will have to buy. This recipe was really good and I highly recommend giving it a try. One thing that never goes to waste in my house is coffee, and I have this roasted to order. So let me just tell you a little bit about Trade. I'm really pleased to be working with Trade Coffee again because they support over 50 plus independent roasters across the US. So if you don't have a local roastery near you and you really want to support small roasteries, then definitely check out Trade. This week's coffee is Leftist by Gimme Coffee, and I think they're based in New York. And of course, their coffee is fair trade. This is their espresso blend, which is perfect for me because I use an espresso machine most days to make my coffee. And I felt like this one really spoke to me. I actually signed up for their 6-bag subscription because the more bags that you subscribe to early on, the bigger the discount is that you get. So I think if you prepay for about 6 bags, you actually get 40% discount, which works out to be an incredibly reasonable price for a locally roasted bag of coffee. I've noticed recently that coffee has gotten more expensive, and so I feel like this is just such a great way to still get the coffee that you like, but also at a very, very reasonable price, as well as still supporting local coffee roasters as well. This one has dark chocolate, cherry, sweet toffee, and a spiced finish. And I always go for a light roast because I truly believe that a light roast is where you can actually taste the coffee more. I hate dark roast coffee. I will never be a dark roast coffee person. If you want to give Trade a go, but you don't want to prepay 6 bags to get your 40% off, right now Trade is offering up to 40% off your first order at drinktrade.com/Immy. That's drinktrade.com/Immy to get up to 40% off your first order. drinktrade.com/Immy. You can take their quick quiz to get your perfect match, and if it isn't quite to your liking, they will replace it for free as part of their first bag guarantee policy, which is pretty amazing, so give it a try. I'm a sourdough woman through and through, but I do like experimenting with baking, and since I had all the ingredients, I decided that I really wanted to experiment with making some ciabatta rolls. Every weekend we tend to go out climbing or hiking for the whole day, and we usually end up buying snacks and stuff to take with us. So this week I really wanted to take some sandwiches that we made ourselves. So I decided to make some ciabatta rolls myself and see how they would work in terms of making our own sandwiches. Honestly, I was very surprised at how easy these were, but they're definitely a little bit sticky when you're putting them on the baking tray. Okay, so for lunch, I actually meal prepped some ragu the other day. So I've got 3 blocks here. We're gonna share that because I also have like half a box of pasta. So I thought, what a perfect meal that I can just get from things that are already in the cupboard. While that's cooking, because I'm gonna put this in the oven to warm up so I can do something else, I'm gonna make a red pepper dip again. It's called mahamra, and I also made this in my meal prep video, but that required using pomegranate molasses, and I just know that those are not going to be used unless I keep making that recipe. So I'm gonna make that again, and I'm gonna have that over the next couple of days. But it's one of those things that sometimes you'll buy specialty ingredients for specific recipes, and I did take a gamble on this dip thinking I'm gonna buy this because it will probably be good, and I'm glad that it was actually very good. So what I'm gonna do with that is I'll make the dip, and I'm also making ciabatta rolls as well, which I haven't made before, so hopefully they turn out well. But I'm gonna make sandwiches with the ciabatta and with the dip. So I'm gonna put the dip in the ciabatta as like a spread, and then maybe put some crispy tofu or something on top, and then some greens. I'm just gonna put these in the oven, and then I'm gonna make that dip. These are also oven safe, so I'm just gonna put it in exactly like this because I can't be bothered to clean up another dish. Making this dip again was also not just a good excuse to use those pomegranate molasses, but it was also a good way to use up some of the walnuts that I still had, and some very old, to be honest, breadcrumbs that I had in the cupboard that I have been trying to finish in a lot of these Project Pantry videos. videos. I finally finished the breadcrumbs, but I didn't quite have enough, so I took 1 slice of sourdough bread out of the freezer. Whenever I make a sourdough loaf, I always try to make 2 and then freeze 1 pre-sliced. 1, it makes it last so much longer and it prevents it from going stale, but it also makes it very convenient when you just want to take out 1 slice or you don't want to eat bread for a couple of days and you still have some very fresh tasting bread that comes out. So I took 1 slice out and I toasted all of those things together, and then I basically had everything else that I needed for this recipe. I really like this 10 ingredient ragu or lentil bolognese that I've made, and I actually have the ingredients to make it again. So I'm definitely going to make that again at some point, probably next week when I'm doing another meal prep. Whenever I do make something that requires cooking with red wine, for example, I always try to get the smallest bottle possible, but it always ends up being around 120 mils or something like that for a recipe. So I always try to plan to make either a double batch or make it twice so that I could definitely use it up. I was very pleased with how these ciabatta rolls turned out, and they ended up being so good for making sandwiches. And to be honest, these rolls didn't last very long. I think they lasted maybe a couple of hours plus the sandwiches for the next day. I did try them with some of the mahamra and it was delicious. And then for dinner I went back to the freezer to see what I had meal prepped and how I could make something that was nice and easy. So I had some black beans and some sofritas and some white rice with coriander and lime that I had frozen, and I made this for both myself and for my husband. These recipes are honestly so good, especially if I've been to the gym. It makes it so much easier after I get home when I just cannot be bothered to make a proper meal, but I want to have something that is healthy, it has a good amount of protein and fiber and all the things that I want to help me recover from my workouts. So this meal prep method has truly been such a game changer for me, and I've just found it so useful. I've had a couple of cans of chickpeas in the cupboard for a while, and I really wanted to make some banana bread, so I decided to drain that and use the aquafaba. And I also had some bananas that were just about to go over to the side of overripe, which is perfect for banana bread, so I decided to make a bunch of those. This recipe is very easy, it's by Rainbow Plant Life, it's the only banana bread I ever make, to be honest. And I also had some semi-sweet chocolate wafers left over from when I made a silken tofu chocolate mousse. I do like baking, but I know when I buy specific ingredients for things like this that they just won't get really used for a long time. Things in the cupboard do last for a really long time, but I like it when they're kind of still fresh in my mind to use them up into a recipe and then to kind of, I guess, move on. Because I don't make things with chocolate chips or semi-sweet wafers very often. So I definitely like to use them and then move on to the next thing. Of course, we had to have one immediately with a cup of tea because, I mean, when they're warm, they are the best. I also had some nutritional yeast and some vital wheat gluten, which is the basis of making seitan. And I wanted to use these up again because they had been in the cupboard for a while. So I decided to make Sarah's Vegan Kitchen's vegan deli meat. This is such a great thing to add to sandwiches. Honestly, sometimes when I just can't be bothered, I will chop off like a big piece of it and I will just eat it like that. It really does just taste good. This recipe is also way more simple than I think it looks like it might be. All it involves is putting stuff in the food processor, rolling something up, and then baking it for like an hour. Sometimes I forget to make this recipe because I'm like, oh, it's just going to take too much effort and too long, and then it just never does. So I highly recommend it if you've been looking for a kind of sandwich alternative, because those sandwich like plant-based meats from the shop don't really look very appetizing to me. Now, I've been hearing that guacamole and avocado freezes really well, and I am skeptical. So I decided to give it a go because I intended to make some guacamole and do this for my meal prep video, but unfortunately my avocados weren't ripe, and then suddenly they just all became ripe at the same time, so it was the perfect opportunity to try it out. I was a little bit worried about browning, so I added in some olive oil, some salt, and quite a lot of lime juice to this. And then I just froze them in half-cup trays, and we will see tomorrow what they turned out like. Because the ciabatta rolls were, in my opinion, a great success, I decided to try and make 2 more ciabatta rolls, but a much bigger one, so I could make a much bigger sandwich. And then I could also just make 1 loaf and essentially, or 2 loaves, and essentially just chop them both in half. But this was just a kind of shortcut. It wouldn't have been at all much more effort to have cut them up into smaller ones. I just kind of wanted to see what would happen if I only made 2. And then in the morning I decided to make a sandwich with all of the things that I had prepared. So the ciabatta with the mahamra, some wild red rocket, and then also the deli meat that I had made. This with some cucumber to add a bit of crunch and a bit of freshness. It's become my new favourite sandwich, as long as you put enough mahamra in there so it's not dry at all. And you can even toast the ciabatta if you want to. But my goodness, this is my new favourite sandwich, and I'm gonna be eating this way too much until I'm actually sick of it. I also tested freezing the mahamra as well, and it freezes very well. In the morning, I took some of the guacamole out of the freezer and I put it in a bowl to defrost so we could check it out for dinner and see how it turned out. Okay, I just got back from the gym and I wanted to have something easy. And this is the way that the guacamole is turning out. Very impressed with the way that it has defrosted. I think it's gonna be good. But with that, I'm gonna have some of the sofrito that I prepared, and I'm gonna have 3, because I usually have this with black beans, but I'm just gonna have it on its own. And then I also have some rice, and I'm just gonna steam this, and then I'm gonna have these things together, and that's it. I think this whole meal prep in portions has really been a game changer, because I genuinely think it's helped me to reduce a lot of food waste. I'm buying specific ingredients for specific recipes, and because I'm freezing them, I don't get bored. If I don't want to eat something for a while, it can be perfectly fine in the freezer for a couple of weeks, and then it just means I'm reducing the amount of things that I'm buying. But when I am going to buy something, it's very intentional. Okay, so I used the aquafaba from 2 cans of chickpeas that I had, and I still have those chickpeas because I used the aquafaba to make banana bread twice, and I don't want these to go to waste. I am going away tomorrow for a week, so I'm gonna make a new recipe that I've never tried before. It's a sesame garlic chickpeas, I think, and yeah, I found this online. I'll link it in a PDF below or Google Doc or whatever. All the recipes that I've talked about in this video will be in a document in the description below if that's helpful for you to check that out. So I need to rinse these. I have 2 of them, and then we'll make it. One thing I'm definitely getting better at is being proactive about looking in the fridge and seeing very specific things that need eating up. And then when I find them, like these chickpeas, I'll specifically go and search for recipes that is the main thing. Sometimes I'll scroll on Pinterest for some inspiration, but I mostly like to just look up very specific ingredients and recipes that surround that. And then hopefully they'll have other ingredients that I already have too. I definitely meant to make some broccoli as well, but I was just feeling a little bit lazy. So let's give it a taste. That's really good. I didn't have any low sodium soy sauce, which is what it asked for, but I think either if you're not going to use low sodium soy sauce, I would dilute it a little bit more with water. But apart from that, this is really, really good. Okay, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you embark on Project Pantry yourself as well, trying to prevent food waste where possible in your home. And I will see you in the next video. Okay, bye.